मकरन्दरसं पिबन्तम् अध्यात्मभृङ्गमवनितलभाग्यशृङ्गम् आनन्दपूर्णमतिमप्रतिमप्रभावम् श्रीचिन्मयं गुरुवरं हृदि भावयामि उन्नीलदाम्बुजदलायतमुग्धनेत्रम् उत्तप्तनिर्मलसुवर्णसमानगात्रम् उन्निद्रभक्तजनमानसराजहंसम् श्रीचिन्मयं गुरुवरं हृदि भावयामि ओङ्कारसूनमकरन्दरसं पिबन्तम् अध्यात्मभृङ्गमवनितलभाग्यशृङ्गम् आनन्दपूर्णमतिमप्रतिमप्रभावम् श्रीचिन्मयं गुरुवरं हृदि भावयामि आयामरम्यभुजदण्डगम्भीररूपं मायान्धकारविनिवारणवज्रदीपं मुद्रादरिद्रकरुणावरुणादिवासं श्रीचिन्मयं गुरुवरं हृदि भावयामि तावल्यमञ्जुलमृदुस्मितकान्तिपूरम् विस्मारिताखिलपदान्तदुःखभारम् आसन्दशोभनपरिच्छदसंवृताङ्गम् श्रीचिन्मयं गुरुवरं हृदि भावयामि ओङ्कारसूनमकरन्दरसं पिबन्तम् अध्यात्मभृङ्गमवनितलभाग्यशृङ्गम्
Hari Om Anant, you're on mute.
Hari Om everyone. Welcome to day 4, the final day for this month on the series of talks and reflections on the book series Love and Respect. It all begins with you, and today it's about you and your friend. Now, this series of talks have been going on for the last 3 days, and we will be continuing these talks in the next month starting October 2nd. Having said that, I think we have a very, very interesting talk lined up for today on you and your friend. Now, based on this, we have a wonderful rendition planned for you, a benediction composed by His Holiness Sri Chandrasekharendra Saraswati Swami, the sage of Kanchi, and first presented by Bharat Ratna Srimati M.S. Subbulakshmi at the United Nations on October 23rd, 1966. Let us see what this song has to offer for us. Let us look at the inner meaning of the song. It says, cultivate friendship which will conquer all hearts. Look upon others as thyself. Renounce war and forswear competition. Give up aggression on others, which is wrong. Wide Mother Earth, our Mother is here, ready to give us all our desires. We have the Lord, our Father, compassionate to all. Ye people of the world, restrain yourself. Give, be kind. May all people be happy and prosperous. What a lovely, beautiful benediction. Let us hear this from Parvati Amma. Over to you, Parvati.
Hari Om. मैत्रीं भजत अखिल हृजेत्रे मैत्रीं भजत अखिल हृजेत्रे आत्मवदेव परानपि पश्यत आत्मवदेव परानपि पश्यत युद्धं त्यजत स्पर्धां त्यजत त्यजत परेषु क्रममाक्रमणम् मैत्रीं भजत अखिल हृजेत्रीं जननी पृथ्वी कामदुघास्ते जननी पृथ्वी कामदुघास्ते जनको देवः सकल दयालु जनको देवः सकल दयालु दाम्यतदत्त दयध्वं जनता दाम्यतदत्त दयध्वं जनता श्रेयो भूयात् सकल जनानां 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 हरि ओम.
Thank you, Parvati Amma. Without further ado, let's start to hear about what is about friendship and how do we connect with our friends. Over to you, Swamiji.
Samasta jana kalyane niratam karunamayam namami chinmayam devam satgurum brahmavitvaram. My salutations to everybody. Namaskar, good evening, Hari Om. We should never make friends out of peer pressure. We should seek a friend from our heart. What our heart feels, accordingly we should choose a friend. And that friendship should lead both you and your friend to something nobler, higher. It should help us to evolve. So we must seek a friend from our heart in the first place, not looking for a companionship on peer pressure to be accepted, to be struggling to be accepted. They will not work. They are the most, can be a kind of companions, but sometimes uneasy companions. Friend is somebody with whom each one is so comfortable. You are free to be yourself. And this is your choice. Mom, dad, brother, sister, grandmother, grandfather are all given to you. Friend is someone whom you choose. So we should know to choose wisely and benefit from it. And it should help both to move forward. So here we go into the book reading. Dear friend, you are my chosen family. We have celebrated the good times and endured the tough times together. With you by my side, I have wings to fly. You help me become a better person with love and respect. This is what we should keep in mind. Because a friend is somebody who's traveling with you in life. Somewhere he popped up into your journey. And once someone has popped up, we travel together. Let that journey be very, very nice. So it goes like, you are my chosen family. We have celebrated good times and endured the tough times together. Life will just not be one way. Life will give us all kinds of experiences. All experiences are important for us because that's what makes us what we are. So it should not be just only nice, goody experiences. No. Life should give us tough situations. Life should give us difficult times. Life should be, like throwing surprises, shocks, all kinds of things, a kaleidoscope of emotions and experiences we should have. Then each one would make us grow. We should make us stronger, give us better insight. So journey is sometimes wonderful, sometimes difficult. It becomes much better, more cherished. We can celebrate it more if we have a good friend. So dear friend, you are my chosen family. We have celebrated the good times and endured the tough times together. With you by my side, I have wings to fly. You help me become a better person. Friendship, as I told you in the beginning of the session, it should help us to become a better person. It should lead us towards our evolution. It should not be that two friends have come together and they ruined each other. That will not work. There are so many people who are very good friends, but they could not progress. They could not evolve. Each one was helping one another to destroy each other, to fall down, and miss out the very glory of life. So a friend is someone who should help you to move in that direction. And you may have, like in the Facebook today, how many friends you have? 5,000? You must be joking. In life, one is very fortunate if one has a handful of friends. Absolutely, who goes well with your thinking, total compatibility with your thoughts, feelings, same vision. It's a beautiful relationship. And it's nice to travel in life when we find the right friends. So whether it is Facebook or otherwise also, companions, many a times we use the word friend. Friend is little more deeper than a companion that way. So let the friendship help us to move forward. Now we will see a series of things about friends. Move on, continue next.
Samgacchadvam samvadadvam samgacchadvam samvadadvam samvo manamsi janatam samvo manamsi janatam deva bhagam yata purve deva bhagam yata purve sanjanana upasate sanjanana upasate.
This is again a very nice verse from the Rig Veda. It indicates how we should be with a friend. May you move in harmony. Finding a friend, let's keep the harmony, because when you bring in love and respect into a relationship, that relationship will be very harmonious. These two qualities are important. Love and respect both should be there in a relationship. So may you move in harmony, speak in one voice. Speak in one voice, meaning the thinking, the thought process, the vision, everything is in the same direction. Both are able to see the same thing, speak in one voice. Let your minds be in agreement, not just at the word level or at the mind level. Let there be agreements, because after all, thoughts would become action someday. So let at the mind level there be agreement. Just as the ancient gods shared their portion of sacrifice, the ancient deities, whatever they got, they shared with each other. Parasparam bhavayantaha. Sharing, nurturing one another, they moved forward. That's how one should be with a friend. So we should keep this in mind. Let's say a good example generally people give is Karna and Duryodhana. Both were very good friends. They are seen, very good friends. Karna even did not take his kingdom when Krishna himself offered Karna, saying, "You are the elder of the Pandavas. You take up the kingdom, we give it to you." Karna did not even take up the kingdom. He said, "No, I would be very disloyal to Duryodhana." Now, the point here is they are thick friends, but in which direction did they go? Good friends, but the direction they went was bad. As a result, they did not help each other to move further up, but they were part of a negative field and eventually lost themselves in it. So there were good friends, but the direction was wrong. Wisdom was wrong. So here we should know, we should have friends and it should lead us further. Tiruvalluvar has also said something so beautiful in Tirukural about friendship. We'll see that now. Yep.
நவில்தொறும் நூல்நயம் போலும் நவில்தொறும் நூல்நயம் போலும் பயில்தொறும் பண்புடையாளர் தொடர்பு பயில்தொறும் பண்புடையாளர் தொடர்பு.
Tiruvalluvar, for those who are not very familiar, is a Hindu saint from Tamil Nadu. Lived more than 2000 years ago, has written couplets, 1000+ couplets, which will have 4 words in the first line, 3 words in the second line, but they are of deep significance. Covered various topics which are relevant to us in life, and all of them will have only 7 words. So here he says, like learning, the friendship of the noble, the more it is cultivated, the more delightful does it become. Like learning makes you grow. Learning makes one evolve. Learning brings you different insights into life. Similarly, he says, like learning, the friendship of the noble, good people. When we have friends who understand us well and whose vision is also on the same direction, when we have friends of that, when it is cultivated, the more delightful does it become. Your journey in life becomes more delightful. A good friend. Krishna and Sudama were good friends. Krishna and Uddhav were good friends. Krishna and Arjuna. See, these friendships led them towards something nobler. So we need to choose that way, and the direction should be the same so that it's very helpful for people to move forward. Now we will read the first story from this book. Ferrying a friend across. Ferrying a friend across. Guhan, the Nishad king, Guhan, was the tribal chieftain who had command over thousands of hunters in the forest. And they lived on the banks of the river Sarayu. When Guha heard the news of Sri Rama being sent on exile, along with Sita Devi and Lakshmana, he was both torn with anger and excitement. He was angry that Sri Rama was banished to the forest, but was excited to receive him and host him for some day. When the day arrived, By then, the trio had reached the banks of Sarayu. Guha rushed to receive Sri Rama, fell at his feet. Sri Rama quickly stopped him halfway, hugged him, and a friend's place in the heart is in the heart and not at the feet. Guha was touched by Sri Rama's love and warmth. Along with his tribes, Guha served them a feast and offered them to host them for all the 14 years with the best luxuries, whatever he can afford in the forest. Sri Rama reminded Guha of his promise to Dasharatha and Kaikeyi and thanked Guha for his affection and hospitality. To oblige Guha, Sri Rama spent the night at the village with Guha and requested to leave next morning. Guha worshipfully ferried Sri Rama, Sita and Lakshmana to the other banks of Chitrakoot. The next morning, while departing, Sri Rama embraced Guha and called him his brother. The friendship between Sri Rama and Guha transcended boundaries of caste and class because it was forged between two pure souls. Both the friends recognized the nobility and the other person served to fulfill others' needs. Now, why we picked up this story is Rama, the prince, met Guha and they became friends. It is the connection of the heart. And Ramayana is full of such friendship where people could connect with each other through the heart and they became really good friends. I'll show that in the next slide. Put the slide, please. Bhunesh. You watch here. We have in the slide Sita and Trijata. Sita and Trijata. Trijata is Vibhishan's daughter. When Ravan kidnapped Sita, Vibhishan, being a Dharmatma, felt and said, this is what Ravan has done is not right, and he should apologize and return Sita back. Ravan was not listening. Ravan kept Sita captive in Ashokavana. Vibhishan sent his daughter, Trijata, to take care of Sita. And they became good friends there. Trijata and Sita. The ideals were the same. Nobility was there in them, so the heart connected and they were good friends. Jatayu and Dasharath were good friends. When Jatayu saw Ram, and he said, this boy looks like Dasharath. When Jatayu saw Ram for the first time, he said, he looks like Dasharath. On inquiring, he came to know that Ram is Dasharath's son. And he narrates to Ram how good friend Jatayu and Dasharath were. Ram and Vibhishan, good friends. Ram and Guha we saw. Ram and Sugriv, good friends. Look at the kind of people Ram was friendly with. And all of them were part of his team. They walked together and each one benefited mutually from each other. Imagine Sita's benefit, solace Trijata was. And what should be for Trijata to associate with Mahalakshmi's incarnation? Both helped each other in their own way and moved. Vibhishan, he became the king of Lanka later, and also he got Lord Ram. As he became friendly with Ram, Ram benefited through Vibhishan because Vibhishan left Ravan and came. And Vibhishan knew everything about Lanka. So there was definite benefits there. And the benefit Vibhishan had, he got Lord Ram and also he became Lankeshwar later. And Jatayu, who gave his life for Sita, died in the hands of Ram. And that means that was moksha. So Dasharath's son was part of giving mukti to Jatayu. Sugriv. Sugriv got his kingdom back and also got Lord Ram. So these friendships mutually helped each other, benefited one another, and helped one another to grow. So it should lead us that way. We will go to the next story, and this is a very, very nice one. The wise counsel and the confident. During the Sangam era, there lived a king in Tamil Nadu called Adhyaman. In his kingdom was a wise poetess, a philosopher known as Avvayar, a revered woman. The king was both a friend and a patron to the poetess. Avvayar too offered him a counsel of warfare, politics, and spiritual matters. Once Adhyaman sent Avvayar as an envoy to the neighboring king Tondaiman's court. Tondaiman was planning to wage a war on Adhyaman's kingdom, and he showed off his shining armory to Avvayar. The swords, the missiles, the shields sparkled in grandeur. Avvayar, in a verse, praised the shining weapons, but wondered if they ever put to use, as they seemed new. On the other hand, she said, Adhyaman's armory is worn out and old, indicating his prowess on the battlefield. Tondaiman realized the weight of Avvayar's words and withdrew his proposition to wage war against Adhyaman. In another instance, Avvayar gently rebuked the king for not showering her with gifts as her patron. She was a withdrawn sannyasi kind of a person. It was a friendly banter, so she just gently rebuked him, saying, as a patron, you have never given me anything. The king in the next meeting offered her a rare gooseberry fruit, which had to be plucked from a top of a mountain. There was said to be only one such gooseberry that could grant a person immortality. Yet Adhyaman chose to give it to Avvayar and not keep it for himself. In each other's company, Avvayar and Adhyaman found good counsel, company of intellectual discourse, and warmth of a trusted friend. Avvayar is an old lady and Adhyaman is a young king. Now, this old person and young king were friends. Age really doesn't matter when you choose your friend. It can be a child and it can be a very senior person. And it is easy to be a friend because it connects with the heart. So Avvayar, being a very senior person, old lady, a poet, grand old lady, and Adhyaman is a young man, and Avvayar saved him from a war, unnecessary war, because of her counseling with the neighboring king. He understood new weapons is not a glory in the army. Used ones shows experience. So on understanding that, he gave up. And then now comes the most beautiful thing, the fruit which can give you immortality, amritam, nectar, which can take one to immortal. Adhyaman felt a wise woman like Avvayar needs it because she's got the wisdom. She's got the vision, she's got the wisdom. It is good if she has it and she lives here forever. More people would be benefited than Adhyaman living. Generally, it is an ambition for any king to get immortal status. And how many people, if we see in our Puranas, have done tapas to get that immortal living? But when Adhyaman got it, he said Avvayar should have. That is friendship. That's one of the most beautiful things. Immortality, he gave it to Avvayar. And what a noble king he was, saying, if she is alive longer, the citizens, his subjects would benefit more. So here is a beautiful example of friendship. They becoming friends, mutually they were benefited, and their friendship blessed the people around. Please keep this in mind when we make friends. Mutually, we should benefit each other to grow, and people around us should benefit in we coming together. In our coming togetherness, people around also should benefit. Adhyaman and Avvayar's friendship led there. Now we shall go to the next story, which I was talking to you yesterday. Here is a verse Chanakya says, "He is a true friend who does not forsake us in the time of need, misfortune, famine, or war, in a king's court or at the crematorium." Chanakya is direct. He says, a true friend is one who will stay with you at all times. There are so many people who come to you when there is in good times. Chanakya says, no. A friend, how do you recognize? When you are in difficulty, let's say in the time of need, misfortune, famine, or war in a king's court or at the crematorium, you will recognize your friend. Once we connect as friend, it really doesn't need to meet every day. We can meet very rarely and just connect like how we met yesterday. That's how friendship is. Once you connect, you connect. Time and space doesn't really matter. Time apart, continent apart, there are people who have been good friends. And once they meet, let us say after a decade or so, they just pick up where they have left earlier. So that's the kind of a bond a friendship has. Now we will go into the thing which I suggested, which I told you yesterday, friendship between the masters. Friendship between masters. In Guru Parampara of Swami Chinmayananda, there exists a special friendship between Swamiji's two gurus, Swami Shivananda and Swami Tapovanam. The former lived on the banks of Ganga at Rishikesh, and the later lived at the higher up in the mountains at Uttarakasi. Swami Tapovanam was an intense ascetic and hardly interacted with the world outside. However, on the behest of Swami Shivananda, Swami Tapovanam would grace programs at the Divine Life Society ashram at Rishikesh. Similarly, Swami Shivananda would send devotees up to the hermitage of Swami Tapovanam to ensure his well-being and to get master's blessings. Continuing in the same lineage, Swami Chinmayananda and his co-disciple Swami Chidananda shared a close bond. Swami Chidananda used to prostrate to Swami Chinmayananda, and Swamiji used to refer to Chidananda as a Sthita Prajna, a person of ideals. When Swami Chinmayananda attained Mahasamadhi in 1993, Swami Chidananda consoled the members of Chinmaya Mission and encouraged them to work harder. And Swami Chidananda said, "The Master has awakened you. Now it is your duty to take his work forward." One of the immediate works entrusted to Chinmaya family then was setting up the Chinmaya International Residential School. This was a dream which Swami Chinmayananji had, and it was not fulfilled. So this was the project which everybody across the globe worked to see that this thing comes up. And naturally at that time, so we thought we should invite Swami Chidananda, his Guru Bhai, Swami Chinmayananji's Guru Bhai, to inaugurate the school. So one of the immediate works entrusted to Chinmaya family then was setting up the Chinmaya International Residential School, CIRS, at Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu. At the inaugural function of CIRS, Swami Chidananda was invited to be the chief guest. Swamiji came to Coimbatore, attended the event, and informed the Chinmaya family that in the train travel he had undertaken from Chennai to Coimbatore, he came by the Nilagiri Express, Blue Mountain Express, undertaken. Swamiji's ticket was spelled as Chinmayananda. The person traveling is Chidananda, but the railways made a mistake. Instead of typing Chidananda, the name was Chinmayananda. And everybody in the Chinmaya family was overwhelmed by the love of Swami Chidananda towards Swami Chinmayananda and respected the friendship, and that guided Chinmaya Mission in the aftermath of Swamiji's demise. Now, there are so many things I want to tell you about this beautiful combination. Swami Shivananji and Swami Tapovanji both first met in Rishikesh in early 20s. And they stayed in the banks of Ganga in Rishikesh. Both Swami Shivananji and Swami Tapovanji both stayed in Rishikesh for a few years. And they were such good friends. They met and they became friends. And they used to go around Rishikesh asking for bhiksha, because they never had anything, any position. They were living as ascetics, and they need to go and collect bhiksha. Ask people, Bhagavati bhiksha, dehi, and if something they give, they take that. And that way, these two were bhiksha friends. Used to walk around, ask for bhiksha, spend lots and lots of time discussing philosophical issues and related topics. And they have traveled together to Kumbh Mela, etc. So it was a very beautiful friendship both had. And Shivananji used to say that Tapovanji hardly spoke. But when a right question people ask, he becomes very vocal. Otherwise, he was very, very quiet. And these two had this kind of a life from their early youth. Two were good friends. And later, Tapovan Maharaj moved further up the mountains, settled somewhere in Uttarakasi for a while, and then in Gangotri, and then he was shuttling between Uttarakasi and Gangotri. And sometimes in extreme winter, when Shivananji used to invite him, he would come back to, he'll come and stay, spend a little time in Rishikesh. Now I have a letter which I want to read out to you, what each other is telling about one another. What is Tapovan Maharaj talking about? What is Tapovan Maharaj's feelings about Shivananda? I'll read that first and then read what is Shivananji's feeling about Tapovan Maharaj. Here it goes like this. That which is not good for oneself should not be done to others. Somebody went and asked Tapovan Maharaj to write few words about Swami Shivananda. And Tapovan Maharaj, being a poet, he composed a beautiful poem, Sanskrit slokas. So in that, continuing that, here he says, that which is not good for oneself should not be done unto others. The advice of the great lawmaker Manu also can be practiced fully and perfectly only by those wise men who have realized this Sarvatma Bhava, which Swami Shivananda always had. Sarvatma Bhava. This Atma is Sarva. This Atma is everywhere. So he says, the advice of the great lawmaker Manu, who also can, Manu, also can be practiced fully and perfectly only by those wise men who have realized this Sarvatma Bhava. And only these realized souls are really entitled to teach and preach divine qualities and divine life to others. Those who have realized that truth alone are eligible teachers, really entitled to teach and preach the divine qualities and divine life to others. Because the world is benefited only by the teachings of such religious teachers who speak as they have realized and practiced. And here Tapovanji says, nowadays, even those who have no faith in God pose to be devotees and seers of God and preach about God. He's talking about this in 50s, 1950s, 70 years ago. He says, nowadays, even those who have no faith in God pose to be devotees and seers of God and preach about God. God realization and godly qualities, they preach about it. A greedy man preaches renunciation. What a tragedy. A person who is greedy, insecure, threatened, speaks about renunciation. A greedy man preaches renunciation. A haughty man advises modesty. And an idol of hatred becomes teacher of love. That does more harm than good to the society. Such people do more harm than good to the society. And killing the conscience is always more sinful than killing many wise men and cows. Go hatya, Brahma hatya. So Tapovanji says, if a person who, who is an idol of hatred but becomes a teacher of love, hypocrisy, a man who is greedy, speaks about renunciation, all this doesn't do and it harms more. And such people who are pretending, he says they harm the society more. That does more harm than good to the society. And killing the conscience of a person is always more sinful than killing of many wise men and cows. Not only wise men, but gods also laugh seeing the drama of such spiritual masters. This is the kind of people all around. And now he says, go to Ananda Kutir. That's where Swami Shivananda lives. These kind of people are all there. So you move away and go to Ananda Kutir. Go to Ananda Kutir at Rishikesh. You can see an embodiment of this Sarvatma Bhava. You can see an embodiment of this Sarvatma Bhava. That Shivanandaji had this identification to whoever came to him. He identified, he took them with him. So he says, you can see this embodiment. Look at the word, embodiment of Sarvatma Bhava there. Who deserves to be the real and the great master of divine knowledge, divine qualities, and divine life. Shivananda is the master. And really speaking, we must be extremely grateful to Shivanandaji. Indian history, when it is written by spirited Indians, Swami Shivanandaji will always have a chapter. Swami Shivanandaji not just created sannyasis, the sannyasis he initiated and inspired have become institutions. Chinmaya Mission, Bihar School of Yoga, Yoga Vedanta Academy. And it goes on. 5-6 people whom he has initiated have become institutions. They all started institutions across, and they have their centers across the world. One man inspired people, and they created 6-7 global institutions. So here we have this beautiful thing, which, one second, I lost them. Go to Ananda Kutir. Who deserves to be the real and great master of divine life, divine knowledge, divine qualities, divine life. I mean, Srimat Swami Shivananda, the widely known, respected sage of the present age. His love and modesty have no bounds because they are derived from the real Sarvatma Bhava. Though he is a sannyasi of the best type, of great tyaga and vairagya, his love made him a man of service. Love never makes a man sit quiet before the troubles and the miseries of his brothers. When you love, you can't sit quietly. You will get up and work. You will get up and serve. So he says, love never makes a man sit quiet before the troubles and miseries of his brothers. I quote an incident of this great love described in my Sanskrit book, Ishwar Darshan, from my own experience. Now, Tapovanji is talking. Once when Swamiji, that is Tapovanji, was residing somewhere below Brahmananda Ashram in Rishikesh, Sri Shivanandaji came to him one day at noon and said in English, "A Bengali sadhu is residing with me. For the last few days, he has been very ill. Just to give him, I want little milk, and have been going from ashram to ashram for few ounces, but it has not been available. There is no way to get it except on the payment from some shop. If only I had 2 annas, I can pay that and get that milk for that Bengali sadhu. Sri Tapovanji too had been depending entirely on Bhiksha. He kept no pie on his own. Yet somehow he managed, went and found something somewhere here, there, asked, managed to get 4 annas, and with humble prostrations handed it over to Swami Shivananji. Shivananji, praising his great kindness and love for service. Swamiji wholeheartedly admired and respected Swami Shivananda for his loving acts of kindness and noble qualities. Can you believe? When they have to give milk for another sannyasi who was staying with Swami Shivananji and he wasn't well and they could not afford. And the ashrams nearby they went, also all of them are mendicants living with absolutely almost nothing, austere life, and could not get milk. And if they have to go and get it from a shopkeeper, you have to pay 2 annas. You need, and they did not have 2 annas, which is equal to, let us say, something like today's value, if you say 1 rupee or 2 rupees. That much they did not have. And somehow he managed to get 4 annas and they bought milk and they gave. Look at the austerity in which these Mahatmas lived. So Taponji says, I remember that day when he came. Why? He doesn't need anything, but he's got that Sarvatma Bhava, the feeling and identifying with everybody, and takes care of all of them. So there he says, Swamiji wholeheartedly admired and respected Shivananji for his loving acts of kindness and noble qualities. There was not a single pie kept by him at that time. Mark his burning spirit of renunciation. Tapovanji, a Himalayan ascetic, is admiring Swami Shivananji. There was not a single pie kept by him at that time. Mark his burning spirit of renunciation. Yet in that Virakta stage, also complete renunciation, in that Virakta stage also, he wanted to serve others. Seeing his burning love and sympathy towards the sick and the helpless, his modesty also is unparalleled. Though he has taken birth in an ancient, orthodox, proud Brahmin family of South India, he does not hesitate to even take the dust off the feet of a non-Brahmin householders. Such modesty can rarely be seen even in the mythological rishis of yore. See the way in which he says, coming from a very orthodox background, Shivananji gave sannyas to anybody who came. He never saw caste, creed, anything. In that time, that was very, very prevalent in the society. People had this color and caste discriminations. So Tapovanji says, but he was so different. It could be anybody, a householder from any background. He won't mind taking the dust off their feet. That was his level of humility. Such modesty can rarely be seen even in the mythological rishis of the yore. When we look into our own books, scriptures, Puranas, we can't find something like that. I know him. Tapovanji is talking about Shivananji. I know him. I love him. I have been looking at his activities and progress with a gladdening heart for the last so many years. We are very closely connected with each other by mutual love and respect. They've used this word, love and respect, the title of a book. We are very closely connected with each other by mutual love and respect. Both of us are sons of South India, the mother of so many world-renowned saints, philosophers, acharyas. Both of us came to Rishikesh as sannyasins and began our Himalayan tapascharya almost at the same period. But afterwards, I began to live in the caves of Badrinath and Gangotri. I don't know why, but I liked it. He preferred to stay at Rishikesh itself and stuck to his tapasya there. And in course of time, became a great master of divine life by his spiritual attainments and activities. I have not written these lines to praise him. I have written these lines simply to record my admiration towards a perfect Sarvatma Bhava, the mother of all divine qualities. So Tapovanji says, what is the mother of all divine qualities? Sarvatma Bhava is the mother of all divine qualities. And that was visible in Swami Shivananji. And this is what he admired. So you can understand, two young ascetics, they meet in the banks of Ganga at Rishikesh, and they continued their mutual respect and love for each other, great admiration. And now let us see what Shivananji has to say about Tapovan Maharaj. Here Shivananji says, it is indeed a matter of pleasure for me to write about the life and achievement of late Sri Swami Tapovanji Maharaj. Shivananji is writing this after Tapovan Maharaj passed away, after attaining Samadhi, with whom once I lived closely and observed his way of life. There were times when we used to go together to Kshetra for Bhiksha and spend time discussing the problems of philosophy. It was a pleasure to observe his novel ways, convincing explanations, his peculiar style of speaking in Hindi, and his innocent laughter. He was a great Virakta and is known as such throughout the Uttarakhand. Most of his life he spent in seclusion, scriptural study, and meditation. His love for nature, which he so marvelously expressed through his poetry in Sanskrit, was something unique. The Himalayan birds with beautiful plumage and the simple or the ordinary flowers received a special notice, the fine description of which are to be found in his Ishwar Darshanam, the other works, what Swami Tapovanji has written. He had the eye to see a bird flying, a flower blossoming, a creeper moving in the wind. They all had his attention. So they could, and he could spend, and he could not only admire these small things, admired nature, but he could verbalize them, write it beautifully. And that is the book called Ishwar Darshan. Predominantly, His Holiness was a philosopher of the Eastern type, at once practical and prudent. He refused to move away from his idea even under the most tempting critical times. His supreme reverence for the Upanishads and the Acharya could not but impress every aspirant. When such matters used to be brought in for discussion, he would be all enthusiasm and bliss. He insisted on the equipment of the spiritual aspirant and taught the qualified seekers, adhikaris. He has been acclaimed as one of the great Sanskrit scholars of the day. His command on prose and poetry was surprising enough even to scholars. His lofty feelings and pleasant emotions found effective expressions in his works. Even in Malayalam, he could write with the same elegance and ease. He was a great critic of literature. In matters of everyday life too, he used to be critical and logical. He was widely read saint. Many of my works in English and Hindi were pursued by him. At times he used to give his opinion and pass his judgment on the worth of the works. Please think, when Swami Shivananji writes something, he gives it to Tapovan Maharaj to look. And Tapovanji reads it and says, oh, this is lovely, admires where it has to, and if he has to say something, he says. So he says that's how they were. At times he used to give his opinion and pass his judgment on the worth of the works. He liked me immensely, even as I did him. Our friendship was never slackened. The pleasant memories of the events that took place when we both spent our earliest period at Rishikesh are still green in my mind. Sri Tapovan Maharaj was a great conversationalist whose talk would appeal to all kinds of people, young and old, men and women, laymen and sannyasins. Unless asked for a clear philosophical doubt, he refrained from talking on such matters, but would engage the visitors in talks about day-to-day affairs. In this, he was unique. Very little reference to his own glorious life could be found in his conversations, meaning he was never bragging about himself at any point of time. His own autobiography appears more like a biography if you read. His travelogue, basically, not the autobiography, but his travelogues like Ishwar Darshan, Wanderings in the Himalayas, Kailash Yatra, they were all a kind of a travelogue written by him. As if it was written by a close associate of his. It never showed like he was writing it. Name he avoided, fame he shunned. He felt insulted whenever prominence and prestige were forced on him. Such was his indifference towards the worldly things. Great men are simple in their ways and behaviors. Tapovanji was simple in his dress and lived in an ordinary kutir. He was content with the bare necessities of life. He could easily command all comforts and facilities, but he preferred to lead an unassuming life of utter simplicity. He shunned Mahamandaleshwarship offered to him many a times. Mahamandaleshwarship is a position in a particular mandala. They put the sannyasi as the head, and Kailas ashram was generally heading that post, and they offered it many a times to him. He simply refused. Offered it to him many a times. He refused. Spiritual aspirants get inspiration from his life and teaching. His last words to the devotee who served him were, "Do not get entangled in the Bhranti," that is the worldly illusion. "I led the life of Virakta till the end of my life, and I am happy." Equally significant was a statement which he made when some of his devotees wished to take him to Delhi for treatment. He said, "I do not want to go to Delhi. Do not even ministers die in Delhi? Are not people dying by thousands in London and Washington?" Even Shivananji told Tapovan Maharaj, "Go to Delhi. You're not well." Not just Gurudev, Swami Chinmayananji asked him. Even Shivananji said, "Your body is giving away. It is worn out. Let's go to Delhi for better treatment." And he says, even ministers, people of positions, they die in Delhi. And people die in what you call as a developed country like Washington or London. Even in such cities, people die. And he says here, it is immaterial whether one dies 3 days earlier or 3 days later. What does it matter? "I came to Uttarakasi so that my body may be consigned to the Ganges. Here is the wisdom of the saint who would not be carried away by the stress of time and the need, but would stick to his ideal at any cost. Glory to such a mighty soul." This is what Swami Shivananji has to say. And they had disciples. Shivananji only willingly, lovingly sent Swami Chinmayananji, that is Gurudev, to Swami Tapovan Maharaj, saying, "You go to him, there you can study with him Upanishads, because he's a scholar of that kind who can teach you one-on-one, because he teaches to handful." And Shivananji always had a huge following. So he understood at that point of time, Gurudev needs one-on-one attention, and this is the best master, and he sent him. How noble is that? Please think. And looking at Gurudev, Shivananji would know what kind of a potential this person is. Anyone would love to have a disciple like that. But here he says, go to him, he will teach you. Because these masters were so genuine in their love to see the disciple unfold. So Gurudev was sent to Tapovan Maharaj, and there he trained him, learned the Upanishads from him, and that's all the teacher taught him. And the rest was Gurudev's own reflection, and he came down and started this work. Another famous disciple of Swami Shivananji was Swami Chidananda. And Chidananda and Gurudev became best of the friends. When Gurudev was studying in Divine Life Society, they were roommates. And these two became spiritual giants for the next generation to continue, to inspire. And Gurudev always called. When people asked him, "Do you know a realized man? Do you know any Sthita Prajna?" And Gurudev Swami Chinmayananji would always say, Chidananda is the realized man. He is Sthita Prajna, go to him. Just direct saying, he's the man, you should go. And I have seen in Tirunelveli, Gurudev is on stage, Chidananji comes there. This was year 1993, January. And Swami Chidananda does Shashtang Namaskar to Gurudev. And here is a man saying he's a Sthita Prajna, realized soul, and this realized soul is touching the feet of Gurudev. Their friendship was also unique. They loved each other. They grew together with each other. And it made such a beautiful difference. This we should keep in mind. And the extracts what I read now, the letter is from this new book CCMT has brought out called The Making of a Sage. So that is a very nice book. Swami Kaivalyananda worked hard along with Parvati, former Tapan Prasad editor. They brought out this book, and I think you should get a copy of that too, to see more details. I consigned, I shot, I made the letters really short. It is much more inspiring. So those point out how well these masters lived. Tapovanji and Shivananji, Himawat Vibhutis, they were. Chidananji and Gurudev Swami Chinmayananji were friends who were missionary working in the world. Friendship which took each and everyone up in the ladder of evolution. We have come to the end of this session. The next session would be continuing with the same topic, love and respect. It all begins with you, where we will see other relationships like brother, sister, grandmother, grandfather, grandson, granddaughter, things like that. That we will take up October 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. 3 days, same time, evening, 6:30 to 7:30. Now, if there are any questions, probably we can take one question. Then we can wind up. Yep.
Thank you, Swamiji. I think there are a couple of questions that have come in. I'm just going to condense that into one. Friendships are tough. They give us a difficult time sometimes. And where is the line that we draw? Where do we draw the line? And, two friends can be very close, but, they separate for whatever reasons, betrayal or whatever. How is this going to be handled, or how should we react in such a situation?
It is not doing what one likes, it is doing what is right. In any relationship, dharma should be dominated. In a relationship, please remember, satya and dharma should be the pillars which dominates a relationship. Any relationship we have, it should be based on this dharma. So when it is based on dharma, we will not falter in hurting one another, betraying, cheating. We will not do all that, because the dharma is such a value that we rest on it and we connect with people. So a good friendship should be doing what is right, not what one likes. When you go into doing what one likes, it may not be in line with dharma. So please bring dharma into relationships. That way only you will find a good friend. Again, a friend who also respects dharma. That way you should find. You may have many, many companions, and do not mistake these people who come and go here and there in your life to be friends. In the end of it, you may have 2, 3 friends. Believe me, I have lived long enough. And if you ask me, I have 2, 3 friends. In that, one has passed away, and there are 2. That's all. And not that the second person I met recently, again, in a gap of probably 20, 30 years. And we just picked up where we lost, where we were. So you will generally have 2, 3 friends, and you're fortunate if you have that. Okay, with this, we will wind up. It was lovely talking to you people. We will connect again with the next series of talks with love and respect. Thank you very much. Prayer. You have an announcement?
Yes, Swamiji, we have a few announcements.
Uh-huh.
We will start with that. Thank you so much for these wonderful 4 days and look forward to starting again on the 2nd of October. We will now put up the slides on the announcements for the day. Like we said, all these stories that you've been seeing over these last 4 days are from a book series called To My Family with Love and Respect. And these are available at chennaichennmaya@gmail.com. Please do contact us at these email ID and the phone numbers that you see on the screen. And we will be taking up this same series of books for next month's talks as well, which starts on the 2nd of October and runs for 3 more days. So we will be looking at a few other beautiful relationships to see how we connect to them and live a more fuller life. That is with regards to the announcement about the book series. Also, please note that these talks will be put up on the Chennai Chick YouTube channel, where you can possibly look at them at a later time to reflect upon and also share with your near and dear ones. Moving on to the next announcement. Bhuvnesh. Thank you. So we also have a very interesting session coming up on the 26th of September. This is a session on relationship management called Are We Getting Cooked? Dr. Nitiksha Tarkas, a psychologist and a retired teacher of psychology with 28 years of service, is going to be talking to us on relationships. How do we handle them? How do we manage them? So please do look up this session. I think the registration link is being shared right there. It is also there in the chat.
Anant, 1 minute. Bhunesh, am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, Swamiji.
Yeah. I would just like to add one more line to the introduction. Mrs. Tarkas is our Swami Swatmananda's mother. So she is going to come and talk on this topic. Are we getting cooked? On psychology and relationship. Yeah, continue back.
So we urge you to look up this particular series of talks and do register. The registration link is being shared in the chat window. And please do understand that this is coming from a very, very well-rounded, experienced psychologist, more than 28 years of experience. And the research that she has done is going to be presented to you as well in a very, very easy capsule form. And we urge you to look at this particular talk series as well. So that is the last announcement for this day. And we look forward to seeing you at this talk as well as next month's talks. Again, it all begins with you. Thank you. Hari Om.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you.
The registration link is also available on the chat. You can click it to register.
ओङ्कारसूनमकरन्दरसं पिबन्तम् अध्यात्मभृङ्गमवनितलभाग्यशृङ्गम् आनन्दपूर्णमतिमप्रतिमप्रभावम् श्रीचिन्मयं गुरुवरं हृदि भावयामि निर्मलसुवर्णसमानगात्रम् पुण्यभक्तजनमानसराजहंसम् श्रीचिन्मयं गुरु प्रसूनमकरन्दरसं पिबन्तम् अध्यात्मभृङ्गमवनितलभाग्यशृङ्गम् आनन्दपूर्णमतिमप्रतिमप्रभावम् श्रीचिन्मयं गुरुवरं हृदि भावयामि। आयामरम्यभुजदण्डगम्भीररूपं मायान्धकारविनिवारणवज्रदीवं मुद्रादरिद्रकरुणावरुणादिवासं श्रीचिन्मयं गुरुवरं हृदि भावयामि।
Hari Om. We are closing the session today. Thank you.